We're back with another video here. We're going to talk about tonight the 2023 drama All the Light That We Cannot See, starring Ariel Lamberti and Lewis Hoffman. And this is a tale of two people, a blind girl and a German soldier, that crossed paths in World War II in occupied France. And we're going to talk about our initial reactions and some of the spoiler-free things, our ideas that we liked. We have our two guests with us, our in-laws, Knox and Sarah.
What's up, guys?
Obviously, my wife, Rachel. So thank you for joining in. It's kind of like a round table of different opinions and discussions, so I hope you enjoy it. So first, let us talk about our initial reactions. So who would like to go first?
Well, let's let our guests go first. So, Knox, what about you? What was
Sure,
your initial reaction?
I'll start it off tonight.
Yeah.
So, All the Light We Cannot See. A lot of World War II, a lot of 19th century style TV shows coming out this year, and I have to say, it ranks right up at the top, in my opinion. I think it's a great depiction of World War II era France.
Yeah.
With emotion, with passion, the acting, unbelievable acting, and it's something you can binge in one night if you commit to it. It is about 4 hours long, so if you feel like diving in to a period drama, definitely check out All the Light We Cannot See.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm going to jump in with my initial thoughts. So, well, one thing that was kind of different for me was when I saw the trailer, I kind of expected it to be more of like this sweeping World War II story. And after the first episode, I realized, okay, it's an intimate story. So it's a story that follows really two characters, and it's a very intimate, close journey with them. So you're not going to see, if you're looking for a World War II movie that has like big battles and, you know, a lot of things going on, that's not what this movie is. So that was a little bit different. That was kind of one initial reaction I had to it. What about you?
My initial reaction was that this is going to be a pretty intense story. Right off the bat, the first few scenes of the movie draw you right in, and they make the world, obviously occupied France at that time, dominated by Germany, and it brings you right into the war. It's suspenseful, dramatic, and you're just trying to understand who these characters are, and I think they do a good job of building up these characters so that you care about them. Obviously, there's some things that I would have liked to see more, and I think that this, although it's a good series, it had the potential to be a great series. I know many people that have read the book, and they said that the book is amazing. I haven't read the book yet, but overall initial reaction I thought was pretty well done. The cinematography, obviously the soundtrack, James Newton Howard, who's well known throughout film, and so yeah, it was really good. What do you say, Sarah?
Well, actually, for me, the whole fact that I could tell from the very beginning that it was going to be centered kind of around radios I was like, oh wow, this is really new. Like, I haven't seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is different. This is going to be good. And I was kind of like hooked from the very beginning with that.
Yeah, it was a different kind of premise for sure. Like, you're not expecting that, it's going to be an intimate story, very intimate story, from the very beginning. I honestly felt like it was a little slow paced, especially knowing that it was going to be 4 episodes. I was expecting, okay, so it didn't seem like a whole lot happened in the first episode. And I guess since, we've seen a lot of Korean dramas where there's 16 episodes and a lot happens, I was like, well, shouldn't more happen? So that was another initial reaction I had. I was like, oh, 1 episode has gone by and not a lot has happened. But we'll get into more of that, the pacing and all that later as we talk in more detail about it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to give a quick plot summary, or not summary, but just a setting. We don't want to get into the summary yet because that would be spoilers. But so it starts off with this. You have this blind girl who is she's talking through the radio, which the radio is it's a scary thing because the Germans are tracking down anyone who is illegally broadcasting from the radio. So the fact that she's broadcasting from the radio is a very dangerous thing. And she's in Saint-Malo, so they're in France. The setting is in France, and it's being bombed. And the Germans have occupied it. So basically, they're trapped. The French are trapped, and the Germans have occupied the town. She's there. She's talking through the radio. She's trying to reach out to her father and her uncle. We don't, I'm not going to give away too much there, but she's trying to reach out to them. She doesn't know where they are. And then you also have, on the other flip side of it, you also have this German soldier, a young boy, a younger guy. And he's kind of underneath some rubble there, and his job in the German army is to track down these illegal broadcastings. But we find him listening to the radio, and he's listening to her, and he's enjoying listening to her. And we start to realize that there's a reason why he's listening to her, and that there's a connection there. And it's, like I said before, it's intimate. So it's going to follow through what all that is about, and it slowly kind of unravels that connection as you go through it. So that's kind of just the setting for you. But let's talk about things that we liked about it. So Knox, what were things you liked about it? So
just a couple, just really high-flying things that I really enjoyed about this TV series was its depth. Now, while some might disagree that there's just more left to be desired, in the character development, in the ending, in certain other aspects of it, I think it did a very good job of just containing the raw emotion of World War II from two varying perspectives. And you have Marie on one hand, who I can't give spoilers, but I can say that she is the obvious protagonist. Yeah, the balanced perspective of the French liberation side and the Nazi side, where you have a young boy who is just entrenched in his role as a soldier, and a young girl who is entrenched as a slave. And the circumstance of them coming together through this radio, and how the beauty of
the story, it's all about connection, because you have they're trying to connect to the radio, to the station, so that's kind of like a parallel to the two main characters and how there's a connection between them even though they've never even met. And I think that's probably my favorite thing about the whole show, is that they're connected through something apart from them.
Yeah,
and then that kind of goes into the biblical perspective in my mind, but I'll wait for that.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, let's talk about things that we didn't like so much. Grant?
All right, a couple things that I didn't like. Number one, I thought the casting of Mark Ruffalo, I disagree with the casting. Sorry,
Gotta love
him. Everybody loves the
cute.
Hulk, but I don't know. I just in this role, and I felt like his French accent was just really choppy, and not to just harp too much on it, but I didn't.
Maybe you should have just stuck with a British accent.
I mean, it just wasn't the greatest performance, but that's okay. I mean, it's just something that I would have liked maybe seen a different actor, other than Mark Ruffalo being in that part.
Yeah, it seems like maybe they chose him just because they know, people know who this guy is. He's a big actor.
Yeah.
But, was he the right person for the role?
Yeah, I'm just not a huge Mark Ruffalo fan, and, I thought he could have immersed himself into the character a little bit more, by at least adopting somewhat of a decent French accent, because the girl, Aria Lamberti, was so good.
Yeah.
She was just so real, and obviously she's really blind. So and that was her first role, and she poured everything into the role. So She was really good. Yeah, I would have liked to seen someone else other than Mark Ruffalo play that part. But other things that I disliked. Let's see. Yeah, another thing I didn't like about the drama was that I felt like in episode 1 and 2, I was completely hooked in. 1 and 2 just drew me in. There was a lot of scenes that were just gritty, raw emotion that brought me in, and then episode 3 kind of focused on their backstory a little bit, and it just kept flashing back to the past, and I wanted to know what was going on in the present.
Yeah, it kind of felt like it took away from the intensity of the moment because it kept going back, which is fine. Like, I love flashbacks, and the flashbacks were very interesting, but I felt like maybe the story would have felt more compelling if they had started the story from the flashback point and moved the story in a linear way.
Yeah.
But starting the story then going back makes us feel like, okay, we already know they're going to survive till here, or we already know they're going to be here. So now you've taken away the intensity by going back all the time. And at this point, our hearts are ready to see what's going to happen forward.
Yeah. I think they dedicated a whole episode just to the background. I think episode 3 was all about background and where this girl came from, how they got to that point, and also where the German soldier and his background and going into the school and everything else. So, yeah, I mean that's great. You want to know, you want to be invested in these characters, but you only have 4 episodes. That's all you have. So, I would have liked to see more in the present, what's going to happen next with these characters. So.
Yeah, I felt like they had a lot of very intriguing ideas in the show. Like, I was hooked on it from first to last because I was interested in the kinds of ideas and themes like Knox was talking about that they brought up in it. I just felt like some of it didn't quite pay off. But I still think that, in my opinion, it's definitely worth watching, and it's probably better than a lot of things out there right now on Netflix. What would you guys say were some things that maybe you didn't like as much?
Yeah, I think so. There was this one character. He was, you could say, he was like the arch villain of the character. He needed to have his own backstory. We needed to really know why he was so the way he was. I'm not going to say because I don't want to give it away. But I think that would have enriched that part of the plot. It wasn't to such an extent that it changed my opinion of it. Like, I still enjoyed it, the show, because that part of the plot wasn't really what I was watching the show for, if that makes sense. So it didn't really matter to me, but I think it was a weak point in the story.
Yeah.
I think one of my biggest complaints, biggest gripes, was to kind of piggyback off what you guys were saying earlier, was the unnecessary cliffhanger endings at the end of each episode.
Yes.
I mean,
I know.
They forced them to be cliffhangers.
It's like, you knew exactly when the episode was going to end because all right, here we go, the cliffhanger, it's going to happen.
We've got 4 episodes, and you can't end each episode with some sort of resolution. And relatively minor gripe. In the grand scheme of the whole production, I would say, from my perspective, that is a minor gripe, but something that definitely was felt after we watched each episode.
I will say though, if they didn't have those cliffhangers, I may not have
binged it,
stayed up all night and watched the whole thing in one sitting. So they kind of knew what they were doing.
It was a way to draw you in, that's for sure.
Something Sarah was saying too kind of made me think of, like, when she was talking about the villain, is I felt like the villains, the Nazis, in this show were a little over the top evil. Now, don't get me wrong, we all know Nazis were evil. But did they act like it was like, there wasn't subtlety at all.
Yeah,
like,
no
it was
nuance.
like no, it was like, is this like, the main villain to me reminded me of Red Skull from, like,
Hail Hydra.
Yeah, Hail Hydra. I kept saying Hail Hydra because they were like, "Is this Marvel movie?"
Well, he actually had a
is
skull in his cap and his hat, so it was like it felt like.
So I guess with the certain tones of it, some of it was like very realistic, and I felt like the main lead guy was just such a real actor, and he acted it as if he was really that guy, really in the moment. Some of his scenes were very intense, and then I felt like these, like, kind of really cartoony villain guys kind of brought the quality or the tone of it down. Like it kind of reminded you that this is a movie in a way.
Well, to his
little
defense, though, and I will say that the first, I think that was the first or second scene in the movie where the Nazi meets the, he's in the restaurant.
That was a
with
good
the,
scene.
with the waiter,
Yeah.
the French waiter.
Yeah.
And that brought the intensity to another
Yeah,
level.
it did. Yeah.
Definitely
He brought
did.
that. I mean, he brought everything to it. Now, as time went on, I think it was almost maybe
intense.
too intense, where it kind of seemed like it was a horror film or a monster movie. But
Yeah.
but that was one of the best acted scenes in the whole movie, and that's
Yeah.
really what hooked me. I'm like, all right, this is gonna be good. It's gonna be
Intense.
intense. And
Yeah.
I'm ready
Eating the
for it.
oysters.
Yes.
Yes.
He's eating everybody's eating the oysters in San Manuel for whatever reason.
Okay, so
Pretty good.
we're just going to touch a little bit on the Christian perspective because we're going to get into a lot more detail in our next review, which will be all the details. So please come back, watch the show, come back and watch that video with us. But we do want to just give you a little taste of it, what to expect. So first of all, just from a ratings perspective, I would say that this show would be mature audience, and I say that because I don't know if you guys would agree, but there's some intense scenes. I think a lot of it is thematic elements. So there's themes that are dark. You have Nazis, and especially with like the German soldier, and when he's young, and the kind of things he experiences at the hands of the Nazis is a little dark for younger audiences. And there's also some strong language from the Nazi characters as well there. Would you guys have anything else to say about that? About the ratings of it?
Well, I would definitely say that it's mature.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some pretty intense scenes, pretty gritty scenes, gory scenes throughout. I mean, I wouldn't put it up there with some of the other mature shows that are really flagrant in terms of blood and wounds and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to show children this show. I don't believe.
Yeah. No, I think maybe for teenagers it would be okay, depending on their maturity level and stuff. But it does deal with some heavy emotional themes. Yeah.
Good on you, Netflix, for not taking it in a sexual direction.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't have that. I mean, there is a character who is a prostitute, but that character, they don't show anything. You just know that she is, and she's not depicted as a character with integrity or anything.
Right.
She's kind of in league with the villain. So that's there. But I would also say, the general tone of it is very like good versus evil and hope winning out in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't really glorify the evil of.
No.
I mean, but what movie ever glorifies the evil of the Nazis?
That would be a massive plot twist.
Yeah, I think the themes in this movie are worth the watch. For a family of older, maybe teenagers to older kids that you can really kind of, discuss things with them. It's definitely worth it. I think I think it's a profitable movie.
I think when you talk about kind of the Christian perspective, especially when you're dealing with war, and you put yourself in that situation, it's always like, okay, how would I react? How would I be if that, if that was going on in my life, or if that was happening during my time?
Yeah.
And I think what this show kind of depicts is two people that remain hopeful even under the harshest circumstance. And although maybe they're not Christian per se, you can learn a lot from people that endure difficult circumstance. And like, this is a story about a blind girl that's basically all alone behind enemy lines, and she's doing what she can to help her nation, help others, and it's Christ-like in that certain sense. And for us Christians, you have the hope of Christ, and you have the hope of eternal life even through the darkest circumstance. So even through a war or something, an attrition like that, you hold on to hope. But this show does show a lot about holding on to hope and enduring difficulty, and that the Lord strengthens you, during those times. So.
Yeah, and I love what you said about her, because I think that is kind of what draws you to the film really is, here's this blind girl. At the very beginning, I'm like, wait, there's this blind girl, and I remember thinking this in my head, she's just sitting up in this room all by herself, there's bombs going off everywhere, and she's just like very calmly on the radio, and there's more going on with the radio than just talking on the radio. But I remember thinking, wow, like, I'd be scared.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even just to show you that someone like that, could be a benefit. Like, even though someone's blind or has some sort of disability, that they could actually
God uses
the weak things, and I thought that was very cool.
And even the name, All the Light We Cannot See, I think all of us couldn't help but think this could have been even deeper than it is, because as Christians, we do believe in a light that we cannot see.
Yes.
And that is what we hold on to. The light of Christ and the light of the spiritual realities that are going on in the world, and the truth. So it's tempting to be like, oh, but it could be better.
Yeah.
Could be even deeper, than it is, but there's still things that you can take from it, I think.
Yeah, it's like that verse. What was that verse, babe, about the evidence of things unseen? How's that verse start? Faith is the
evidence of things hoped for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hebrews 1:3.
Yeah.
Or 11:3. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Our pastor at our church, he actually recently did a sermon talking about Moses, and he kept saying in the sermon, plunder the Egyptians. And what he was talking about is the world, they have their like beautiful art and their this and that, and we can look at it and we can plunder it and say, like, we're taking that over for God in a sense. Like Mozart, that music, wow, like God made Mozart,
Yeah.
We can see the hand of God in everything. That, even people who don't believe in God, like God is still the one who gave them their gifts, or God is the one who, we can trace things back to Him, which is one of the beautiful things. And that's one of the things we love to do in this, podcast, is tracing even movies that aren't necessarily Christian, still tracing some of the themes back to the Christian worldview, which we all live in. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that pretty much ends our spoiler-free review. But before we go, we want to give you just our initial rating out of 10. So, Knox, what would you say?
Gotta give it an 8. And
8
I'll
out
just
of
leave
10.
it at that. You'll have to check out the next video, the non-spoiler video,
to see
hear
why.
a little bit more about why it's an 8.
Sarah?
Well, believe it or not, we did not consult at all, but mine was totally an 8 too.
Great minds think alike. Mm-hmm. What would you say?
Okay, don't kill me, but I put 6 out of 10. But I rate things, like, my ratings are very personal. So I rate it based off of, like, do I like this compared to other things that I've seen? And other things that maybe we've reviewed. And I do think that it has a lot of value, but I think that the flaws are what kind of brought it down for me. And we'll get into more detail on that.
I would say 6.5 out of 10. And although I did enjoy watching it, yeah, I know we're the
negatives.
We're the Debbie Downers. But you only have 4 episodes. You only have 4 episodes to kind of make it. I wish it would have been longer. I wish it would have been 8, and kind of these characters could get fleshed out a little bit, and they could explain certain things that were really not explained, and brought out in depth. Some of the things that were, some of the motivations of some of the characters, that it just was not explained, because I don't think they had enough time to do it. But overall, 6.5. I would definitely probably watch it again. Over. But yeah, that's.
I think it's worth a rewatch.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about
100%.
rewatchability?
Yeah.
We're gonna watch that once a year.
Yeah. I know.
I love it. Okay, so yeah, so come back and join us again next week as we get into the details, and we hope that you go and check it out on Netflix. It's definitely worth a watch.
Yes.
And we'll enjoy discussing it further. Leave comment, let us know what you think about it, and yeah.
And
That's
I will
it.
try to put in the comment section the exact passage in Exodus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Later.
Later.